This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There, ready to rock and roll. Good morning, sir. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent. Cannot complain. So let me ask you something. In an off season now where we are watching changes being made, where there's coaches, obviously you're making a lot of changes on the team, players leaving, new players coming in, NILs, all that stuff happening. Yeah. What should the expectations be? Because the problem has been so far, we put too much expectations because Mario took over, because we like Mario, because he's a Miami guy, because he played for Miami. Because of all that, we almost expect him to wave a magic wand and everything goes away. And then last season was kind of a wake-up call for a lot of people, like, yo, this program ain't very good, and this guy inherited a bad program. And then his staff didn't do a good job either on top of all of that. Right. So what are the expectations? Even if you've made changes, players are still young. You know, this program still hasn't had a lot of success. It doesn't have a lot of anchors, overall. So how are you looking at the expectations going into the season? Because I think you posted yesterday, a day before, whatever, Clemson favored by 10 in the
yeah, Florida State favored by 16.5. Yeah, there were some early lines from Bet Online that were put out for games this fall, and obviously there's still a lot more roster moves to be made. But to your point, I mean, I think it's a very interesting question because, I'm about to record a podcast later today with Carlos Ledo, who's another guy who's very plugged into the program and just history and stuff like that. And we were sort of talking about what is a natural step in year two, right? Like you can go back and look at this program before it won national championships with Howard Schnellenberger, and basically, from 1979 to 1980, the kind of transition that it made to go towards a championship. And I looked up a bunch of sort of different examples across college football. I'm going to share some of the notes with you. Schnellenberger in his second year went 9-3. Miami finished 18th in the AP poll in 1980. Now, granted,
at the Peach Bowl?
That was the Peach Bowl win over Virginia Tech.
Well, let me tell you something. Because how old were you then?
I was only 2 years old, though. This was.
Let me tell you, because I was obviously I'm a little older than you.
Yeah,
dude, we were on freaking cloud 9.
Yeah.
Okay, like the Canes winning the Peach Bowl was the biggest shit out there, bro. We were so impressed. We were happy. My God, I'm going to save my Miami News. They won the Peach Bowl, that kind of shit. It was, and it's just the Peach Bowl, but it was just one of those things that for a young program, it was an incredible accomplishment, at that point. So to win the title, then what is it? 2 years later, right? I think it is
3 years. 3 years later, yeah.
3 years later, it's just ridiculous. But I remember the U winning the Peach Bowl like it was yesterday, and I remember the buzz. And I remember people writing in the paper and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't like sports talk was anything existing at that time, but just amongst ourselves, it was like, wow, man, our UM actually made it to the Peach Bowl. It was just like one of these incredible feats. And it shows you that, Lou Saban brought in a couple of decent players, and then it was Howard that then really started to take some of his players and then others to the next level.
Well, they were 5-6 in Howard's first year, and I was looking at the roster, right? I'm like looking at this 1980 roster, and I'm going to throw some names at you. Albert Bentley was an NFL running back, right? I mean, he was a running back on that team. You had Jim Kelly as your quarterback, an NFL quarterback. You had Lester Williams, an offensive tackle who I think was an NFL. Wasn't he a first-round pick, Lester Williams?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he was. Anyway, right. You had Fred Marion, you had some other guys. So I'm thinking to myself, can you compare Miami's talent, right? Like, think about it in just progress. Does Miami have an NFL caliber quarterback? Probably. Tyler Van Dyke is probably an NFL quarterback. Do they have an NFL running back? I don't know. Do they have Ronnie Lepet, Fred Marion on defense. Those are some of the guys. Jim Burt, who played in the NFL for many
At
years.
the moment, we don't know.
Right.
We
At
don't
the
know.
moment, we don't know. But
Shit, Jim Burt ended up winning a Super Bowl. I mean,
yes.
bro. I mean, Jimmy, give me a break, bro. You were talking about some players. That's why I told you Saban him a couple guys, and then he took it to the next level by trying to really recruit locally and really keep some of the guys, and that was enormous too.
I think that's sort of a perfect example because Miami's so far removed from from its heydays, right? It's 20 years. It's almost like it's like a Schnellenberger sort of takeover because things have been so bad here for a while that you think of Mario in that way. Can he go from a 5-6 to a 9-3 type season? Just some other examples, though, and I'm going to talk about this on the podcast that I record later. But just Nick Saban in his second season at Alabama. Remember, Alabama was a mess when he took over Alabama. They went 12-2. They went 12-2 in his second season. Okay.
Yeah. They didn't have bad talent on that team. Shula actually did a
No.
decent job of recruiting.
Right.
It's just he's not half the coach that Saban is.
Correct. Dabo Sweeney, which I think is probably a more comparable comparison with Clemson, right? Tommy Bowden, they went 9-5 in his second year. And then Jim Harbaugh 10-3 in year number 2. You got to look at Michigan as a program you hope Miami can be, right? Because they've been to the playoff 2 years in a row. So I don't know. Those are some sort of examples of what's a fair expectation for year 2. I think that's, if you want to be really good, if you want to be a playoff team down the road, that's what you kind of hope happens in year 2. Get to 8-9 wins. I think for Mario to do that, it would show real progress. It would show that he's got his fingerprints on this roster, that he's really changed the culture. But I don't know if they'll get there. I really don't know. We don't know how many Jim Burts and Fred Marions really are on this team.
I think it's really slim to none that they can get to 9 wins. If they get to 9 wins, then Mario him and his staff did just one of the great coaching jobs of all time, because to get them from where they were, and with the changes you've made and a whole bunch of guys that haven't played together and a new scheme on offense and everything, I think 7 to maybe 8 wins is really like a realistic max for them. If they get to 9 or more, oh my God, then the staff did a marvelous, marvelous job. I think it's really unfair to think, or unrealistic to put those kind of expectations on this team that you're going to get 9 or 10 and get into a big bowl game. I just don't see that. I just don't.
I'm with you. I think 8 wins is probably the most realistic, right? Like get top out at 8 wins.
Yeah, I think 7 or 8. Right. I wouldn't be pissed if they won 7 or 8. I'd be, this is kind of what they are right now. And then the following year, then that's when, although you do lose your quarterback. So all of a sudden now you start fresh with a new quarterback. And then that becomes, because until you have an established program, when you make a transition to a new quarterback, but you have a line that, 4 of them have been around for 3+ years, or you have a leading receiver, or you have a leading tight end, or you have, 2 or 3 established running backs or something, then you can make that new quarterback's life that much easier. But the problem is that next year, when you get a new quarterback, there's going to be a lot of new faces out there too at the same time. And that's just not good for a program. In order for you to make the constant transition at quarterback, you better have a nice foundation offensively around him. And they haven't developed that. It's not their fault. It's just there's not enough time to do that yet.
Right. And I think the transfer portal, a lot of people are obviously looking at that saying, why haven't they acted more, right? Like they've got one pickup here since the end of spring football. I don't think there's a lot of talent this year in the portal. I think a lot of the best players are staying put where they are. I think a lot of the guys are probably getting taken care of by their schools now because NIL collectives are sort of in place. So there's less incentive to leave. They have the best players are not leaving those schools for greener pastures unless they're going up in rank, right? They're going up to a better Power 5 program. So I think for Miami, unfortunately, it's just not a very deep talent pool in the transfer portal. And I think, this is where being a great recruiter like Mario Cristobal has to come into play, and why he always says you don't build through the transfer portal, you build through recruiting and your own guys, and that's the key to this all.
Yeah, no, I agree with him in that sense. I mean, I I think I almost think like you got to lean on that transfer portal as you get closer to being a big time team. But for now, you want to really lay that foundation with guys that are going to be around for you for 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
That's what I think you really want to do right now. Focus on that a lot. It's nice to get a guy or two that can help you out, but maybe you're right. Maybe they don't feel that there's a ton of difference makers out there for them, at this point in time. But I will ask you, recruiting wise, what's going on? What's the latest?
Well, this is a big weekend in terms of guys that they've been talking to through the transfer portal for a minute. A couple names that I can confirm for sure are on campus. A couple of junior college kids who are pretty well recruited. They have other Power Five offers. One of them's an offensive lineman named Amari Wiggins out of Coffeyville. 6'3", about 300-pound interior offensive lineman. Kid grew up in Florida, went to the same high school as the number 5 overall pick, Devon Witherspoon, from the draft last weekend. Pensacola Pine Forest, and I exchanged text messages or actually DMs today with him, and he said he was on campus. He'll be here through the weekend. He's got a trip to Illinois next weekend, so he'll make a decision down the road. But Miami's definitely in it for him. I think he's sort of the center of the future for Miami if they're able to get him. He's kind of the guy that would, I think, replace Matt Lee after this coming season. You have a receiver, Shamar Kirk, another kid, another JUCO kid, out in California, originally from Tennessee. He's a little bit older because he didn't play football right away after graduating high school. He's 22 years old, over close to 1,500 yards receiving, 15 touchdowns the last 2 years. Both of those guys are on campus. There's 4 others that Gabby Urrutia from 247 Sports and some of the other guys who stay on top of this stuff every single day. A.J. Allen, a running back from Nebraska, was a true freshman this past season, broke his collarbone after 4 games, but I think he had 190 yards rushing and a couple of touchdowns after 4 games. He was kind of the backup running back there. Miami's looking for a little bit of depth at the running back position. You got a couple more defensive players, including defensive tackle, Louisiana Tech's Kiwi Rose, and Ole Miss defensive tackle Tywone Malone. Um, uh, Rose is more of an older guy, 6'3", 303 pounds, 32-game starter, All-Conference USA this past season. Malone is the kid we've mentioned before, the baseball player, the guy who hits big home runs, 6'4", 300 pounds. And then you have North Texas linebacker Larry Nixon, the third, 6'2", 236, another grad transfer, a guy who was Conference USA, over 100 tackles. All of these guys, to me, are they frontline first team starters? Maybe not, but they're guys that'll be in the rotation and give you the kind of depth that you need to survive through a season. AJ Allen's the kind of guy you bring in here and he can be your number 2 running back. He can be a change of pace guy in this lineup. He can be insurance for Don Chaney Jr., who we know is always getting hurt. Tywone Malone, could he be one of your top 3 defensive tackles? Absolutely. He could get in the rotation with Leonard Taylor or Jared Harrison Hunt and play a lot and give you valuable minutes. Same with Kiwi Rose. They're not going to beat Daryl Jackson. Daryl Jackson, who Miami lost at Florida State, was a 12-game starter and a run stuffer and a good player for you. But they're the next best thing. And really, when it comes down to it, it's how deep are you in college football these days to survive all the injuries, to survive the things that your team goes through year to year to year. So I think it'll be an important weekend for Miami, but I don't know that we'll get answers right away after this weekend. We may see a commitment. We may not. A lot of these guys, I think, are still visiting schools, still sort of figuring out where they're going to go. So we may not have answers until a couple weeks from now on some of these dudes.
By the way, completely off the wall question with the Panthers kicking some ass here.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that Hurricanes hockey team? Do you know anything about that?
The university hockey team?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
it wasn't like an official team, right? It was kind of like
no,
what?
I don't want to call it a fraternity team, but it's I forget the correct terminology for it. Oh, but yeah, they were playing here in Pembroke Pines Ice Arena. I know that they would have some of their home games there. I'm not sure if it's still going on. There was somebody who would always message me on Twitter when they were playing to tell me, hey, they won or they lost. It was just sort of a hockey guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still have the team or not. I haven't heard any updates in the past year, but I know I was still getting messages up until a year ago. What about them?
No,
What do you got?
I'm just wondering if they were
Yeah.
still around. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? They actually, their crest, their logo was actually pretty freaking cool.
Mhm.
Like I liked it. You know what I'm saying? So I just put in a search for, University of Miami hockey because I'm kind of intrigued on like
I
what happened to,
I think
you
they're
know.
called club teams now that I think about it. I think that's the way they refer to it in college. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody has information, do they still do it? I'm just wondering. Because that's kind of
Yeah.
it's interesting if that actually became something and they would actually add it as a legitimate sport. That
Yeah.
would be funny if,
Well,
not that I'm pretty sure they're not because
I think Title IX hurts a lot of that kind of stuff, in terms of getting the financing and matching the scholarships and whatnot. So, but those guys have fun. I know that. I know they enjoy playing, and I think it's just mostly in-state schools is who they play against. There's not a whole lot of traveling,
right, right, right,
So,
right.
but it's a club type thing, and they enjoy it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's funny. All right, what do you got going on in the athletics so folks can check you out this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be coming out with a mailbag probably on Monday, answering some statewide recruiting / NIL questions. I posted an article earlier this week on the top 10 states for talent, sort of a
Oh, yeah,
recruiting
I saw that.
breakdown for
Yes.
the class of 2024. Um, you know, Obviously still very early. We're only in May, but give you a little bit of a picture of the top available guys that are uncommitted and sort of who's sort of in the running for who. Etc. So all that is available for you at the Athletic, and a ton of Colorado coverage. We've been writing the hell out of that Deion Sanders stuff because it's so interesting and so different.
Yeah, yeah. Shit, it's a hell of a story, dude. And there's a lot of news coming out of that one with and that portal is like, brother, it's like a revolving door. They probably have like four
Yeah,
of them in the program, and it's just people coming in and out, in and out. Well, that's how it happens, man. A new CEO takes over at a business. A shitload of people are getting fired, and new people are coming in. No different, bro.
he's really treated it like an NFL team, and I think he's been honest with the players at least from the beginning, right? He's been very upfront. Hey, a lot of you guys won't be here, which is the way it is in the NFL, right? They tell you the
It
moment you come
sounds
in.
cold. It's cold and cruel, okay,
Yeah,
but it's his job on the line. It's his assistant coach's jobs on the line.
right.
They just got there. So what are you going to do? Carry a kid around for a year or two in your program when you know he can't
Yeah,
contribute and he's making your team worse? So then he's making your job tougher and then you can't produce nearly as much. And I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. So
mm-hmm.
their job's on the line. Those guys just got there from Jackson State. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
earned shit. They
Right.
don't have a long time there to prove. In a couple of years, if they're not producing, brother, everybody will be riding because of the buzz you came in with. You're now going to be also leveled some serious criticism if you fail.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
that's the way it goes with the territory. Oh, you came in with all that hype, this, that, you got rid of a whole bunch of kids, and you guys lost and didn't get it done. You should get fired, this, that, whatever. So this is what's going to happen. Since your ass is on the line, well, hey, kid, you're not going to help me keep my job. I need you to get the hell out of here. So you put your arm around the kid and you tell him nicely, hey, young man, we like you personally, but we want to tell you, you're not going to play much at all here. You're going to be on the bench watching. Maybe we'll use you on the scout team, but really, you're not going to see the light of day because we don't think you're good enough. Now, if you think you can find a place somewhere else, that might be better for you than sitting here and watching the rest of the guys play for the next year or two. Boom. And you move on. But hey, look, dude, Mike Budenholzer, 5 straight division titles, 60-win season, a championship. The guy gets, bounced here in the playoffs. Oh, by the way, and his brother died during the finals. I mean,
Yeah.
during the playoffs, and he just got fired. It's a cold world, bro.
It really is. It absolutely is. Oh, but this is this is where competition has gotten to this point where it's this cutthroat and call. Listen, you start putting in NIL dollars, right? Players start collecting checks. That whole amateurism thing and the thought of, hey, these are just kids, that goes out the window, brother.
It's crazy because Budenholzer did a good job for the Hawks. That's how
Mm-hmm.
he got that job.
Yep.
So it's like, he's got a track record. So he had an off year. Plus, by the way, suppose the best coach in the league, he'll make anybody look silly because
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, Spo will outcoach you because he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. So that's no shame either. That's the part. And by the way, was it his fault that Giannis got injured? It's a cold world, bro. It really is an absolutely cold world. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Manny, have a fantastic weekend, my friend. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Talk soon.
You got it. There you go. Caneswear, baby, 2511 South University Drive in Davie. Go see Brett, Jeff, all the amazing people out there. They've got anything and everything practically with a UM logo on it. You need an Inter-Miami kit, they got it for you. You want some Miami Dolphins gear? They got it. Miami Heat? They got it. Miami Marlins? They got it. Florida Panthers? They got it. Go to caneswear.com, order over $99, and you will get free shipping. Caneswear.com.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.